Hello and welcome to another video. I am going to be throwing books at you today that are going to be recommendations for books I think you might be able to read in one sitting. These are going to be a variety of genres. We've got contemporary, thriller, fantasy. I hope there's something for everyone here. But basically, these are books that I think you should be able to get through fairly quickly because of how gripping they are, because of how maybe action-based or thrilling, or just have such compelling characters that you literally can't put the book down. So I'm going to throw them at you now. Not literally, because that would hurt my camera. And we'll just go through all 8 of them and tell you what they're about. First up is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Rodman Sloan. This is a super short, kind of contemporary, maybe flickers of fantasy in it. It's a bit of a weird one. This basically, yeah, it kind of does flicker of fantasies in it. This is basically set initially in a bookshop as somebody is looking for a job and they basically get hired within this bookshop, and then they realise there's all this weird stuff going on within the bookshop and within these special members of the bookshop who take away special books and are trying to work something out. And our main character gets swept up in what this is and what is going on and kind of gets involved in the wider scale of things and the whole outer purpose of the bookshop. It's very cool, very different. If you are working in marketing at all, I think you'll appreciate this because there's a lot of different marketing lingo and nods, which I quite enjoyed. At the same time, you don't have to be working in marketing to understand it, but it's rare that I read a book that actually involves my day job in it, which was weird. But I did really enjoy this one, and I think it just felt very addictive because it wasn't like anything I'd read before, so I didn't find the plot at all predictable, and I just wanted to keep reading to know what was going to happen to these characters and what the end fallout was going to be from the weird situation within this book. So I definitely think this one could be a 1-sitting read, or at least a 2-sitting read. It's really fun and it's really fast-paced, and it really isn't too long either. Then we've got The Girls Ive Been by Tess Sharp. This follows a main character whose mum is a con artist and has basically brought her daughter in on all her acts throughout her lifespan. And that is the kind of life that she's been raised to having. But now she's living with her sister, who has basically pulled her out of this really crappy situation. So she started life anew. Except, unfortunately, she gets swept up in a bank robbery. I say unfortunate, it's unfortunate for her, not so much for us because it makes for a really entertaining story. But this basically flips between the bank robbery as it progresses to be quite a serious bank robbery with armed robbers, and also her past as we look back at the girls she's been. And we basically get to build her up as a character throughout this book. The fact that this is set between the bank robbery and the robbery is getting more and more dangerous and more captivating means you literally will not be able to put this book down, because every time you leave the bank robbery to go to a chapter from her past, you have to go back to the bank robbery chapter. You've got to get there so you know what happens, and it's just a vicious cycle of just one more chapter. I absolutely loved this one. It was one that I've seen a lot of people talking about, a lot of people recommending when it came out a couple of weeks ago. I thought, yeah, I've got to have that. I love me a good YA thriller, and I liked it. It was different. It felt interesting because we were seeing the perspective of this girl being abused really by her mum and how that's affected her, and how the life of helping her mum with her cons has affected her and has almost prepared her for the situation she's in now in a very weird way. I really enjoyed it. If you're into YA thrillers, or if this sounds like something you wanted to give a go, I would definitely recommend picking it up. Okay, sorry if the camera angle changed, I had to get up for a second there, but the next book I'm recommending you is The Love and Lies of Roxanne Ali by Sabina Khan. This is a really short contemporary. I think I read this in one sitting partially because when I read it, I was in A&E. I had really bad sunburn on my back and it caused an allergic reaction or something. I don't know what it did. I was sat outside, I didn't realise I was in the sun. I thought I was under an umbrella, but it turned out a bit of my back was in the sun, and for like 4 hours and it burnt really badly and I had a reaction, and it was really fun. It was probably the most pain I've ever been in. It was a fun time. Anyway, didn't need that context, did you? I read this in one sitting because I had no signal in A&E and this was all I had on me. So this was a really good 1-sitting read. We basically follow the life of Roxana, who has a girlfriend that she cares very much about, but her parents cannot know about this girlfriend because she's from a Muslim family and she doesn't want them finding out because she knows that they would not approve. So of course the story follows them finding out, them really not being very happy, and then sending her to Bangladesh for her to learn more about her culture, where she's basically thrown into a world of people that go into arranged marriages, and she kind of sees the path that her parents want her to take. And this is about her balancing up what she wants, how to please her parents, how to please her whole family, and also, I suppose, how to please her girlfriend as well, and basically just balancing all of these different things, trying to be somebody that can be what everyone wants her to be, but also be true to herself. The way these characters are written makes them feel so real, and you feel so invested in their lives and you care so much about what she's going through. But also this is a sort of story of her discovering her culture a lot more and being in Bangladesh and being around more of her family, and just that aspect of it is fascinating as well. But generally, I think everything clubbed together makes this a really compelling one-sitting read, because you desperately want to know what the outcome is going to be for her, and you really want her happiness throughout the whole of this thing. So I really enjoyed this one, and this would definitely be on my recommendations for a very quick one-sitting read. This book is next. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This comes with a warning for crying, because oh my god. This book basically is about what it says. It's set in a world in which on the day you're going to die, you receive a phone call for like the first 3 hours of the day from midnight to 3 AM telling you it's the day you're going to die. So this is about two guys that find each other on this forum for people that don't have anyone to spend their last day with, and they meet up and they spend their last day together. It's Adam Silvera, so you know he's just going to try and destroy you. They basically like each other quite a lot, and the blossoming of a romantic relationship begins within this one day that they have left to live. I mean, you've seen the title. It's a difficult book to read, but the reason it's in this list is not because it's a fun book, but because it's a quick book to read, because oh my god, you just zoom through it. You absolutely zoom through it, because you have to know. Adam Silvera's writing is very easy to read anyway. It's a contemporary, well, a weird futuristic version of a contemporary, but you just have to know what happens, and you have to keep going, and you have to find out the whys and the whats, and just cry a lot. So this book is on the list. Stay hydrated. Then we have got another book that kind of bridges the realms between contemporary and not, because basically this is set within a virtual reality world and the contemporary world. So this is Slay by Brittany Morris, and our main character has basically created a virtual reality world for black gamers. And this is a really escapist space for her to be able to go in. She can take on a character that she's designed, go into the worlds that she's created, and there are so many people there for her to be within a community that is a safe space for her and an escape. But of course there has to be a crux to this story, and that is that a group of people find out about this game and label it as racist for being exclusive to black gamers only, and say that they want access. But the main character who has created the game is actually anonymous. So this is also, not only is this dealing with the fact that this safe space is being threatened by people wanting to join it and basically ruin it and taking it away from the community that it was made for, but this also deals with the fact that our main character isn't out as the creator of this game, and that could be a very, very different life for her, but people are calling for lawsuits and for her to have accountability. So you do definitely feel gripped and compelled to finding out what is happening with her. How is this going to resolve? How is this going to change the future of the game? And how will this game survive as the safe space that she created it to be? I found this really gripping because you just are desperate to find out what the end is going to be, but also the fact that you've got this virtual reality means that you've got the expansiveness of a fantasy within a contemporary book. So I kept reading as well because I desperately wanted to see what different fantasy worlds essentially and different creations this game was going to bring that we were able to see within the virtual reality world. So I really enjoyed this one as well, and I definitely think this would be a really fast read. Then we have got a full-on fantasy, which is Morgan Rhodes' Fallen Kingdom series. This is the first book in the series for a fantasy that is pretty much world building and has magic systems. This is ridiculously fast to read. I'm not quite sure if I can label this as a one-sitting read. It depends. Like, if you give me a sun lounger and really hot day and nothing else to do, then yes, it's probably a one-sitting read. But there is something about this series and every book in the series that just makes it so quick to read, and I just don't know why. The writing really flows well and it just all works together ridiculously well. But basically this is kind of a Game of Thrones style thing in which there are warring kingdoms and power and allegiances and different magic systems that basically are no longer existing, and the whole plot of the series is to try and bring these magic systems back for different reasons, mainly power struggles. So we see a lot of that. There's different royal families that are battling with each other. It's just such a good series, and yeah, it's kind of Game of Thronesy but a lot less heavy. I found this a lot easier to read and more enjoyable to read than Game of Thrones. I'm halfway through the series at the moment and I'm so excited to see where it goes. But if you're looking for something really fun, a bit different but still has that kind of thread of fantasy that you'll recognise, then go for this series. Next up we have a YA thriller. It's Holly Jackson's Good Girl's Guide to Murder. There is no order to this video, I've just realised I probably should have done the YA thrillers together, but Anyway, this is a really, really, really fantastic YA thriller. I think this is my favourite YA thriller. It follows Pip, who wants to do an extended project and investigate a case that has long been closed of the disappearance of a girl, and basically somebody was arrested for her murder and she wants to clear their name, essentially. And this is her researching into it and digging deeper and finding out there's a lot more to the story than she first realised. This is all set in a little English village, which I absolutely love because you don't often see things set in a little village in England rather than the cities. So the setting was instantly really fab for me and it just felt really cozy. But this is also told in mixed media. There are podcasts transcribed in here as well as your regular chapters. There's pictures as well occasionally from her studies basically, and I just adored this. I've not read a thriller like this before and I hope to continue to read lots more from Holly Jackson. There's 2 out in this series at the moment. There's a 3rd one coming out, and there's also a little tiny book for World Book Day from Holly Jackson too. So I'm very, very excited about Holly Jackson's writing because she just has such a brilliant mind for crafting these thrillers, and you just have to keep reading because it'll give you goosebumps, and you just need to know whether what Pip's found is true, what's going to happen as the repercussions as she finds out more, and what's the end game going to be. I really loved it. And finally we have Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury. This is kind of a horror, I think. It's very skinny, so very quick, but also you'll just have to keep reading because you need to know what the hell is going on. Going into this book, I knew not much, so I'm not going to tell you too much, but basically this is about a girl who lives with her dad on the bank of the river that they're protecting, except her dad is very much labelled as a murderer for killing her mum. So she thinks she's living with a murderer and is basically terrified of her dad, but there's a lot more going on and there's some creepy stuff happening around the river that's very weird and definitely freaked me out a little bit, and it's so bizarre because you don't get any indication as to what's going on in the blurb of this that you have to just keep reading and read it in one sitting because the blurb tells you nothing, so you're not prepared. And that means you have to keep reading because, yeah, it's just very gripping, very creepy, and very short. So all those clubbed together to make a really cool horror-y, thriller-y, weird journey of a book. So those are my 8 recommendations of books that I think you can read in 1-ish sittings. I think that's what we'll call it, books you can read in 1-ish sitting in a bracket. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've got any books that you would recommend for reading in one sitting, or just quick books, because sometimes we just want books that we can read really quickly, whether it's for readathons, whether it's to reach reading goals, or you just fancy a quick read. So these are those books. Do give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and as I said, yeah, comment down below, or you can subscribe to see more of these kind of book recommendations, vlogs, a flat tour at some point, anything like that on my feed in the future. Thanks so much for watching guys, keep smiling and stay positive.